from, I think the youngest was third grade, and I think the oldest was eighth. So elementary and middle school. I'm not sure. I think we've done some things with high schools too, but I haven't worked with any high school aged kids. We do a lot of tutoring and one-on-one tutoring with kids that reach out to the program as well.
Thank
Yeah.
you. You know, when you talked about distractibility, and I thought that sounds like adults too.
Yeah. I mean, the Zoom, the transition from pre-COVID to Zoom education has definitely been tough on everybody. There's so many things in our house to get distracted with.
Well, maybe since we're talking about, you and being able to teach kids programming and then also doing the tutoring piece, you mentioned that you are currently doing that through an organization called Calculus Roundtable. Can you tell us about what this organization does, what they stand for, what's their kind of moral obligation to the world? Why do they exist as an organization?
Okay. Yeah. So basically the CEO, Jim Hollis, really cool guy. He is I think he's been around education for a long time. And something that he has noticed is that there are, so many groups of kids that would definitely benefit from, these higher education STEM topics, but because of limited time, limited resources, they just don't get to it. And so Calculus Roundtable has set out to kind of bridge that gap and kind of get kids that otherwise wouldn't be exposed to these STEM topics into them, in fun, innovative ways. And so, yeah, it's really just an organization that's trying to help as many kids as possible. And I found out about it through my someone that I went to my community college with, and it just felt like the perfect way for me to impart, the wisdom that I wish that I would have had when I was their ages onto people that, could benefit from it now. I think they only hire really college students too. So it helps the kids see, younger people that just recently, got through the middle, elementary, high school stuff and are now doing, college. And I feel like a lot of the times it helps to be able to have that perspective, to be able to relate to the kids a little bit too, because it's not easy going through school. There's a lot of stuff that goes on, and especially with the past couple years, these kids need all the support they can get.
Michelle, did you see that Carl is in?
Yes. Yay, success. Thank you, Armando, for taking time to explain what Calculus Roundtable is. Hi, Carl. Glad you made it.
Oh, sorry, I had some technical difficulties.
Hey, you know what? It wouldn't be a true webinar without it, I think, at this point. We were just talking about Armando, who's from Calculus Roundtable, and he was sharing some of his work of, the organization's intentionality around really hiring and also supporting students from marginalized communities to learn coding. And I'm Michelle Lau from ACOE, the program manager for math. And then Steve is here. I'll let him introduce himself once more.
I'm Steve Bateman. I work at the Contra Costa County Office of Education, kind of a sister agency up in Contra Costa. And I'm the manager of technology and curriculum integration. Happy to be here.
And then we'd love to hear from you, Carl.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Carl Tupum. I've worked in the software industry for the past decade. Worked at a few startups, started in 2012, and then I joined a few larger companies worked on iOS at Apple, and then worked on mapping and computer vision at Google. And currently I'm leading a startup that me and my co-founder founded last year that focuses on B2B services.
What is B2B services?
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm full of jargon. B2B, business to business, right? So like a consumer application like Snapchat, that's B2C, business to consumer. Business to business enables other businesses to be able to get their work done. And so there's a lot of companies actually in that field that enable tons of other companies to be able to get their work done, right? Like Zoom is a great B2B example. They support B2C and B2B. Google is kind of the same deal, right? Gmail, you use it personally, but there's also corporate Gmail customers. So yeah, a lot of our customers are other companies.
Thank you for clarifying that. I think in every single industry, including education, there's a whole ton of jargon and
Yeah.
it's a learning in itself. Well, I know that Armando was telling us about Calculus Roundtable. Thank you for introducing yourself, Carl. But and I want to say a few things about the communication space that we're in, and that is that definitely, and I think we have another panelist that's coming into the space. What we're going to do is we are recording this webinar. We know that it is a hard time for folks to try to engage, but we want to make our time.
Hello.
Hi, Laith. How are you? No, it's
Um,
okay. Is that Praise with you? In the back?
Okay, yeah. So we're gonna join us like four people because we're at the campus right now during the celebration thing, basically.
Okay, thanks so much for making it. I was just gonna say, we have Armando here from Calculus Roundtable, Carl, and then you guys just joined in. We did some quick introductions, but because we're a panel here, we are recording it and we're going to be posting it so that folks can still have access to what we share and talk about and learn from each other today. But we also have a Q&A box that's open. So if any of the panelists have some questions, feel free to utilize that Q&A, and Steve and I as moderators will lift it up to the panel. And then certainly this is not something that Steve and I are leading. If there's questions that you have amongst one another, or have things to build on one another's comments, please feel free to do so. So with that, do you want to take the time to introduce who's in the room at the celebration with you?
Yeah, so it's basically everyone that's hold on, am I muted? Okay. So it's basically everyone that takes the class basically. But I guess 4 of us were supposed to show up today. We did our interview, or we did our final presentations just now. And
They're on their way down.
the other 2 are, yeah, they're coming on their way basically. But yeah, my name is Laith. I'm a student at San Francisco State. And you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Praise Uvini. I'm my last year in San Francisco State studying computer science as a bachelor's, and mathematics is my minors. Yeah.
So glad that all of you guys can join us in this panel today. So maybe let's get start from where did this all start for each of you? Can you share a little bit of your journey of how you ventured into your world or your studies of computer science?
What? So basically, I think the reason why I chose to go into the computer science industry is because I'm a big gamer. So I like playing games, and ever since I was a kid playing these games, I always wondered what happens behind the scenes basically. And throughout my experience, throughout high school and everything, I decided to enroll in a lot of computer programming courses, and I found it very interesting, and it was really fun, making something out of nothing basically. And yeah, I think that was basically what gave me the push to pursue my bachelor in computer science and pursue further basically.
Yeah, I had a similar kind of background, just loved to play video games as a kid, and always liked to tinker with electronics. And so, you know, over time, you kind of like to see what's behind the screen, right? Like, how does this all work? And you get curious and more curious, and then playing with playing online video games, right? Like there's a website called newgrounds.com. It was like these flash games that you could play. And I always wanted to be able to make one. And then, you know, your curiosity gets the best of you and you start looking up, how does all of this work? And yeah, that kind of led me into programming. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's I'm pretty sure I mean, I don't want to make a guess, but I'm pretty sure like many people ventured into computer science because of this reason, especially like people who play games. It's definitely very prominent among people that study this in this industry.
For sure.
I had a big background in games as well. But for me, the thing that got me more so into programming, well, when I was younger, I was always like, you know, the family IT, you know, the kid that fixed everyone's laptop problems, fixed everyone's computer problems. If, you know, my grandma had a problem on her phone, just throw it at me. But when I first got into college, I didn't know what form of engineering I wanted to go into, but I knew I wanted to go into some type of engineering. And so I was balancing between mechanical and aerospace. But in 2020, when, you know, COVID happened and everything moved to online, my partner suggested I try out a C++ class because I've always been a computer person. And so I took it and loved it and haven't looked back.
Nice. Cool.
Super nice.
How
I know.
would it- oh, sorry,
ahead. Go ahead, Praise. I don't want to cut you off. Talk
Sorry.
about how you ventured into it.
Yeah, so my venture into computer science isn't as definite as like Late's. If I'm being honest, I wasn't really gonna be in computer science. I didn't know anything about computers prior to me getting into college. It was just like a leap of faith, I guess. Coming from like my parents, like coming from like an immigrant family, like your parents would kind of always push you to like study some sort of science or like some engineering degree. So I think that really influenced me, like, and it influenced me picking a sort of like computer science to see what it's really about, because it gets good money, I guess. So yeah, that was it.
Carl, since you are starting your own startup company, what do you think about Praise's comments? Like, it's a good career in terms of making a decent salary and to be able to thrive in the Bay Area?
I would say so. I would definitely say so. I mean, you know, you see a lot of people come here to work in the industry, and it's, you know, so many companies have risen from the Bay Area, and not just from the Bay Area, across the world now, it seems. There's this famous quote from a venture capitalist called Mark Andreessen, where he stated that software is eating the world, right? And what he meant by that is that every facet of communication, of work, of media, all of that is going to involve computers in some sort of way, right? And so the software industry is kind of expanding and delving into every other industry. And so I think it's a useful skill, and I think, yeah, it's been a great and rewarding, productive career so far.
That's encouraging. I'm going to move us on to one of the questions that we had curated for the session. And that is, oftentimes when people have a stereotype about who coders are and how they look like, has that ever impacted you? And if so, if you encountered this situation, how have you dealt with that? It may be applicable, maybe not. I'm gonna put it out there.
Wait, sorry, could you repeat the question?
I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. I know you guys are moving furniture. The The question is, oftentimes when people have a stereotype about who coders are and how they look like, that impacts, whether or not they see it as a challenge or as a discouragement. Have you ever encountered a situation like that or around a stereotype? Or have you just in general ever feel like you've been underestimated in the field of computer science?
You wanna go?
Pretty instant. I actually have, which at first I would be in like disbelief, not disbelief, but a little bit reluctant to believe that, I guess. But I've been in my classes. When I first started getting into computer science, I started to see that I was as a black man, I was the only one that was really in my class. It would be like me and one other person, or yeah, just like two, three people, full of a class of non-POC, like non-black POC, So that's, I guess it was kind of hard for me to start learning, probably because I've never seen computers before. And when it came to like working in teams, working in partners, things of that nature, I guess I was always left behind. I wasn't picked at first. So I guess that's relatable to the question. I don't know if that's if that applies, but yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I think we spoke about this when we had like our one-on-one meeting, Michelle, but I think so after our meeting I actually did some research. I think like after researching like people's stereotype as a computer science person, I guess I've never encountered something of that sort because I fit the stereotype. But yeah, that kind of opened my eye a little bit into like this subject matter. But yeah.
I can definitely think of some times that there have been stereotypes, and I think there's stereotypes from different angles, right? Like when I started learning computer science, it wasn't as prevalent, I think, in our culture today. I think over the last decade or so, it's become a much more popular field, and I think that's good. But in 2010, 2009, computer science was still this like, at least where I was going to school, I went to school in the East Coast, it was this like niche kind of field. And the idea of a computer programmer, a software engineer, there were still these tropes of, they're the person that's like, hunched up in the corner and they're, drinking their Mountain Dew and, they're like glued to their computer, that type of thing. So it really was this weird kind of trope that a lot of people thought about software engineers, and it was like, oh yeah, that's not cool. And when I actually got into the industry, I saw that there are people from all these different backgrounds, from different countries, and that had all this expertise. And so that was one angle. And then as a Black man, like, I definitely have been in those spaces where when you mention, hey, like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a software engineer. There's that, oh, like, it's almost imperceptible, but, you can definitely see it. There's this immediate kind of, well, I didn't expect that from you, right? And that has happened countless times. And I think that the goal over time is just to make this more and more of like a normalized thing, right? That you can see people from all sorts of different backgrounds, races, creeds, whatever, and they're able to contribute and program and build all sorts of things and lead companies and be in all of these different situations.
Me personally, I feel like I haven't, just because I kind of switched to computer science in a time where everything was virtual. And so the majority of the time that I was taking my courses and was working on side projects, I was working with people that I know. people or just people on a screen. So I don't think I've been around the physical computer science space enough to have experienced that.
All right, I know someone else entered the room, so I want to make sure we have a chance to say hi.
Hello, I'm Jeremiah Warkawa. I'm Latino. Being I guess what was one of these questions, or one of those questions that you want me to ask?
Yeah, but we were just talking because I know we were saying we were moving furniture over there, but there's sometimes stereotypes that come with the field. And then, also sometimes maybe perhaps an experience of being underestimated in the world of computer science. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Yeah, I actually have. So like, I at first was like, I think, being in computer science, you don't see like a lot of other like Latinos per se. It's a lot, there's like a strictly like only a couple other types of ethnicities in that field. So like kind of I feel like the lone sheep, or like just by himself, like I myself, it's like I feel that like, you really don't hear that much about Latino programmer, Latino software engineer, right? It's more of like an Asian software engineer, or a white person as a software engineer, but never really Latino engineer. How I like try to get over that is that there's this movie I really love. It's called Stand and Deliver. It's about Jaime Escalante, who's this ex techie in the 80s, right? He goes to like Garfield. I think the high school is called Garfield High School in the East Los Angeles. And, he wanted to teach these like group of people, or group of Latinos who literally, they said that none of them would go to college, none of them would go take an AP test or pass it. And long story short is that he spent a good like 2 one group, and a majority of them had passed the AP test. And he says one thing, and there's one thing in a line in the movie where he says, he looks to one of the students, and one of the students is like, why do I need to learn? I don't know math. I don't understand. And he said, it's in your blood. Meaning, being Latino, being Latin, we had a calendar and stuff like that. So we kind of understand like how this computing works. How I got over it as well now is that I joined a nonprofit that helps underrepresented people get into tech, and I surrounded myself in a community full of unrepresented people to help me get into continuing on with wanting to be in technology.
That's great. What was the nonprofit organization that you were involved with?
Oh, I'm actually
Oops. I think we have
in the mission. It's called Dev Mission.
Okay.
It's run by Leo Sosa. He great guy. He's looking for any opportunity to get involved in any of the communities in the Bay Area. Yeah.
I asked that because Armando is he's working alongside Calculus Roundtable, who is also an organization, and correct me if I'm wrong, but based on my conversations with Jim Hollis, their mission is to really diversify the face of STEM. So they work in schools, after school organizations, and so on. Feel free to jump in if I missed anything.
Yeah, that was spot on.
Okay. So my next question is, it seems like, Carl, you've kind of alluded to this, is that it seems like that there's a lot more diversity now. I will say that I remember in the past, truth be told, I tried to pursue a minor in computer science while getting my math degree at the time. And I was the only female in the class. So, and I I definitely felt like you did, Jeremiah, quite the outlier. But it's encouraging to hear that there's more diversity. And so with that, do you think there are advantages with having more diversity in the world of computer science? And if so, how?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that it's not only beneficial, it's absolutely necessary, right? Because of the fact that so much more of computer science and therefore programming and therefore software is enveloped in the rest of our lives, you need to have people from diverse backgrounds and viewpoints to be in the room to help build that software. I can give like a concrete example. Working at Google, there was a program that's, they made sure to have diverse subjects for their computer vision algorithms, right? They'd gotten in trouble. The Google Photos product had gotten in trouble before, where they released, a beta version, and everyone signed up, and it would auto tag pictures that you uploaded to Google Photos. And then someone, a Black person, uploaded a bunch of photos, and it automatically classified him and his family as gorillas, right? Like, it's clearly they hadn't trained, their human examples to include, people of diverse shades. So, from that, there was a whole program stood up where it's like, hey, we're going to make sure that we get people from all sorts of backgrounds to build into these classifiers, right? Like, that's really important. And you can see that across all sorts of other domains, right? There's so much more machine learning that's being added to a lot of these programs. So it's really important, just that use case right there, the training data it's really important. And if you had someone in the room who had been testing it, they would have caught that way earlier. But you can see that, throughout the whole pipeline, there must have been people who were coding that up, people who were testing it, people who were using it in the field, and that wasn't caught. That's something where if you had a diverse team, you would have caught that immediately.
That's true.
I think that it's important as well for people potentially getting into it. Working with kids, I feel as though it really does make little kids who are people of color feel like it's attainable for them to see people that look like them in these positions. And so I think that the more diversity we see in every STEM field is just, it's definitely beneficial and necessary.
Yeah, I think you're lagging.
Oh,
I think the internet is bad over here. Oh, okay.
We're lagging.
We're lagging. I don't know if we're lagging or you guys are lagging.
probably a little bit of both.
Yeah, probably a little bit of both.
It's some great perspective. I don't know if the SFSU group has any other inputs in terms of, the necessary aspect of having a more diverse workforce or representation in computer science.
I definitely kind of agree with what was said earlier. I do think that having a more diverse group within this field is necessary. Just because you could gain like different perspectives on certain programs when you're programming, and it encourages people to kind of join the field as well. Me being a senior, I tutor kids who are freshmen sometimes. One of this lady that I tutor for her projects. I asked her about her experience thus far, being her first year at SS State in computer science, and the first thing that she told me was that she's like the only, it's a male dominated industry, and to her it's an industry that she didn't want to get into at first, and her family was kind of skeptical because it is I guess it is there's more of a male dominant ratio than they are with women coders and programmers. And it has the potential to discourage somebody from going into that field, into, you know, exploring new experiences to see if they like it, if it's something that they can relate to, you know, it differs them, and that's not a good thing in my opinion. But I think as time is progressing, computer science is becoming more and more diverse than we've seen in the past. Even from 4 years ago, computer science, now the amount of people that are getting into the field is like, it's, you know, it's exploding into like a whole new array, and it's really cool to see. So, yeah.
I'm gonna throw out a question in there because I think I've heard from a couple different panelists from other panels that coding wasn't, like, being a computer programmer wasn't their like first goal. They wanted to do something and they realized that coding would help them get to that destination. Is that true for your case, or did you, like, you know, from a certain age say, I just know I want to go into coding and being a computer programmer?
I actually started college. When I started college, I wanted to be a pharmacist. I'm dead serious. I started as a chemistry major. I wanted to be a pharmacist, but I didn't want to be a pharmacist that worked at Walgreens yet. I wanted to be a pharmacist that like was at Gilead, on the floor, hands-on, doing things with all the stuff. And one day my dad, who's like, I guess he's like the Latino version of a tiger dad or tiger mom. You know, he's just kind of, you know, if you're not a doctor, then, you know, forget you. But he was like, okay, well, you know, let me tell you something. So he's like, okay, get in the car. We got in the car and he starts driving towards San Jose, and he starts pointing out all these buildings. There's Motorola, eBay, all these other buildings along the highway. And he's all like, okay, so what do you really want to do? And I'm like, well, if I continue wanting to be a pharmacist, and we're having this thing of like robotics and, you know, that coming alive pretty soon, and there might be a robot taking my hands-on pharmaceutical job going on. And, you know, maybe there's a pharmacist who has a background in computer science, and that guy will be able to get the job before me, because I have no idea. I won't have any idea on how anything of that, any computer science or robotics would work. So that's when I switched right away. I think it was like the next semester. I was like, no more chemistry. I had done the whole general chem, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to do computer science because that's the future, and that will allow me to be where I want to be, and like explore the world. And, you know, with remote work now, it's like a whole new thing. Like, I don't know, I'm just like really happy that I chose computer science. I've had a really great time with my transition, and I don't think my decision to change was bad at all. I think it was a really good decision, and I wouldn't change it.
So funny story that's kind of similar to his. My first semester of college, I was also influenced by my family to become a surgeon. So that's what I wanted to be. I enrolled in a chemistry class, but I said, so I was on the wait list. So I was thinking to myself, if I get into this class, then I'll become a surgeon. But if I don't get in, and he kicks me out of the wait list, then I guess I'll pursue computer science. And I was dropped from the class. So that's kind of and then I had an excuse to tell my parents, basically. And I told them that I wanted to graduate on time, and I wouldn't be able to become a surgeon. And over time they kind of accepted it, but yeah. But to his point about the robots thing, I heard something about this Chat GPT thing, and it's kind of like writing code, like perfectly working code. So that might take our jobs in the future if we ever become software engineers. So we're not really safe from robots, even if we are programmers.
In relation to both of them too, computer science was not my first thought, nor was it my second or my third. My parents also wanted me to go into medicine, because they're like, oh, you came to America, I'm not gonna let you go do something else. So I was gonna be a pharmacist as well, because I thought it was a very easy way to kind of get into the medical field. The only reason I'm in computer science is after a while I kind of didn't want to do that anymore. I got bored of it. I was trying to find out what else was out there besides pharmaceutical science. And there was and I saw computers, and it influenced me to pick computers, and that's where I am now.
My name is Kevin. I know I came in late, but I also have a very similar story. Who knew? Very similar to theirs. My mom's an immigrant from China, and she's also very, very strict, like a tiger mom. And she also wanted me to go into the medical field as a doctor because, that's how you make money, or that's what she thought, right? And it's very prestigious compared to she could show off to her friends or something. But personally, I was always afraid of blood, so that could never be me. So basically in high school, I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to go as undeclared or anything because that could probably hurt my chances of getting into college. So I chose what inspired me the most as a kid. I used technology as a kid a lot. Right. And yeah, that's how I chose to go into computer science. I still right when I applied for college, I still didn't even know what computer science was about or what it was going to be like. But personally, I think I have academic rigor, right? If I choose something, I'll stick with it. I never thought about transferring to different major or anything, but and I don't regret it. Computer science, some classes really make me struggle, but I'm already too far in, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I feel that one. Too far in.
I'll keep the pattern going. My parents immigrated from West Africa, and they were the same. In Ghana, West Africa. Oh, where are you from?
I'm Nigerian.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. So I mean, my parents were the same way. They were pressuring me super hard when I got into college to, either become a doctor or a lawyer. I think the saying was doctor, lawyer, or failure, right? And my dad, after I immediately was just I don't want to be a doctor, I don't want to be a lawyer. They're like, okay, then fine. Then what you need to do is you need to get a business degree, and then you're gonna go into business and become a consultant. And they had this whole kind of life planned out for me. And my freshman year was me just kind of subscribing to that. And the thing is, I just was with computer science courses they were calling to me, right? I really was much more interested in those courses. And had much more fun. And so eventually I had to kind of stand up to my parents and tell them hey, I really want to go in this direction. I want to take this degree. I'm going to switch my major from economics and business and focus on computer science. And, they're a bit hesitant about that, but, it ended up working out, and they're very proud of me for making that decision. And to your, original question, Michelle, of did I envision myself as a computer science engineer or software engineer? I always looked at CS as a means to an end, right? What I wanted to do and what I was interested in doing was enabled by these technologies that I was studying, so I've never really people get PhDs in computer science, and I think that's totally cool to do, but I was never really interested in that. I was more interested in I can build this cool game, or I can hack into this website, or I can can download this music. I can do all these cool things with computers, and so that's what really drew me towards it.
Yeah, I feel like parents or immigrant parents say they do care about your career, But as long as you show them a big paycheck, then
That's when they
they'll be
start
fine.
caring.
They'll be fine.
Yeah.
They'll be proud of you, whichever career you chose, as long as you show them that.
You get paid.
But yeah.
I think I'm still a work in progress since I'm an educator. Armando, did you want to share a little bit about that piece?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, my mom didn't have any kind of career that she wanted me to do. She was mostly just, you know, do whatever you want as long as you're happy. So I feel fortunate in that sense, definitely hearing some of those stories. Can't imagine the pressure there. But yeah, I just kind of, you know, arrived at computer science over, you know, a long period of time. I had always had an interest in computers, but as a kid growing up in the early 2000s, you know, where you know, computers, laptops and such were becoming more, you know, widespread, I didn't really comprehend that there was code behind the computer that was making it work. I just understood there's a computer here. As Carl said earlier, I'm just going to log into Newgrounds and you know, play some things online. And so when I finally started digging deeper and you know, uncovering like coding, that's when I really got really invested in computer science.
That's awesome. I think one of the things that if you know, since it seems like kind of the unanimous theme is that, or message, that it's a necessary thing to have, you know, diverse perspectives and also diverse community that's engaged in computer science. You know, we have our attendees here today and we're going to post the recording and we'll have more access to that as well. But to anyone who's kind of viewing this panel session, what are some actionable things or encouragements that you can provide for our students, you know, who are interested or wonder if they have a position or place in computer science? I'm just going to open that up to the group.
Excuse me, guys, can you post like for 5 minutes to take a photo upstairs and back to here?
Oh,
Yeah, because they may finish, so they want to take a big
Okay.
picture.
Yeah, so he's saying that they're taking a photo for the celebration thing in 5 minutes.
our time is up.
All right. Well, if you have to go, thank you for coming. If you have a few minutes to try to, you know, say a word of
Yeah,
encouragement.
we could
for sure.
participate in the
Yeah.
final question. What was the question again? Sorry.
Question is,
Just
if you-
talking to us.
Yeah, we have some students who are, you know, going to see or are also in the room right now in terms of, you know, bringing more diverse perspectives into computer science. Any words of encouragement or actionable things that they can do?
Yeah, I think just keep pushing. It is hard. It's a challenging degree, or it's a challenging industry, especially right now. It's very, what's the word? It's very saturated. But yeah, just keep pushing. There's always room for people of many different diverse backgrounds to enter the industry, and it's it'll pay off in the end. But yeah, just keep grinding and you'll definitely get there.
I feel like for me, one word of advice that I would give anyone going into computer science, whether that be independently or in school, would be like to not really compare your progress to that of your peers, because that can discourage you greatly. It can make you feel like you don't know what you're doing. And sometimes like people have different learning curves. So take that into consideration when you know, are hopping into learning a new language or starting a new program or project. I think it's very important for that, you know.
I would say you do belong in tech, and you do belong in being a programmer or whatever you would like to be in the technology world. It's the fact that you would need to learn how to, well, my biggest advice is that, you know, yes, you do belong, but you also need to learn how to persevere and be resilient in all the stuff that happens in a computer science degree. It is hard, but as long as you are resilient to everything that happens, you know, sometimes there will be a time where, you know, you just don't get it, and you just, you know, it's okay to walk away and come back to it, but also just being able to just get through it. And you know, there is a end light at the end of the tunnel in this degree, in this field, and you can do it. This is for everybody, and as long as you stick with it, you'll be able to get there.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
So yeah, it's just continuing off what Jeremiah said. It's good. My advice would be understanding your limits, right? Not everyone is going to be as good as like the next person next to you, or as good as, you know, the person you're looking up to, right? But that person you're looking up to eventually, like at one point, was at your point, right? You need to understand that like your beginning is going to be much harder than like you know, like the middle of your career, and like you just gotta persevere and like not give up, right? You know, for example, like how I see it, like when I explained about my not giving up, my perseverance is like my academic rigor and stuff like that is you know, like it's like going through a tunnel, right? You see a light at the end of the tunnel, you're almost there, but if you give up, you're never gonna reach the end of the tunnel, and like that whole distance you went was for nothing, right? And that's kind of how I see it.
Thank you, SFSU, so much. Enjoy your picture taking.
Thank you for inviting us.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And thanks, Carl. I know you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna echo, you know, some of the things that they said. I think those are all great points. Actionable things. I think one of the most important things for me personally was just having some degree of curiosity, right? And I think if you're looking for ways to break into computer science, the beautiful things, there's so many different avenues to work into CS. I think if you sit down and look at all of, you know, whatever interests you and the different ways that computers or software are present or prevalent in that interest, whether it be art or whether it be music or whether it be sports, and you just pull on that thread and just keep pulling it, you'll find your way into like some sort of like concrete application. And I think having some sort of interest guiding you is the most important thing, because as long as you're interested, you'll find a way, you'll find something to read up on, some videos, some language to learn. But the kernel at the center of this is it starts with that interest. And so I think that's the most important thing. And then some advice along the way is definitely be patient, because working with software, there's so many instances where, you know, my code is not running the way that I thought it would run. And then it's like, there's some small little error that I missed, or, you know, was introduced somewhere. And, you know, it's really frustrating. And I can't tell you how much just being able to take a step back and kind of be patient and slowly, methodically kind of work through like, okay, what is going on here? How do I understand this system? Is the system behaving the way that I intended to? And finally coming to an understanding of the things that you're interacting with. That's been helpful for me in my career. And it's also been like a skill that's been helpful in so many other facets of my life. So yeah, I think those two things, just you know, picking your interests and really like figuring out how computers kind of play a role in that, and being patient.
I just want to add, for me personally, one thing that I found has helped me keep on track is just trying to find the fun in computer science. You know, there's so much opportunity to, you know, create side projects, create, you know, just these fun little things that you could just toy around with, you know, really get deep into your machine. you know, it's not all just the really tough schoolwork. You know, you can just do so much. So just really get out there and explore.
Thank you for, and I kind of partly asked, I was thinking the question about, you know, you have a particular interest and then coding came along to enhance that interest. That's kind of one of the things that I've been thinking about, you know, with artificial intelligence and all this stuff is it really truly a battle between humanity and robots, you know, because it was mentioned earlier. But I think the key way to go is to use, you know, artificial intelligence and technology to enhance the humanity that we live in. And so, you know, I think kind of these notions that you're lifting out that, you know, something that you enjoy, whether it's video gaming that leads into the curiosity of like, how does this video game work? Or maybe somebody who's like, I love creating these visual displays of art. How can I enhance that? That in many cases, that's kind of where the curiosity can extend a little further. So I thank you guys both for taking the time out this evening to kind of share your journeys and the beauties of the work that you do with people. And I just want to say thank you to Steve as well. I don't know if you have any comments or additional questions, but I wanted to share the space with you.
It looks like our time is almost up, but one thing, not that I deserve or need the last word, maybe somebody else can still get that last word after me, but one argument for me for diversity in computer science that's always really been powerful is the fact that computer science is going to be used to solve the world's thorniest problems. And if we have the same types of people working on the same problems, you know, they're going to come up with the same ideas. We need people with distinct ways of thinking, distinct backgrounds, different types of people working on these problems. The world needs it to be able to solve the problems that we're facing. And if we don't, you know, social justice aside, which is a huge issue too, right? Just the need of the world for diverse thinkers and people of diverse backgrounds and racial everything is so huge that, I mean, that need is so great. We need people of color. We need women. We need everybody in the fold, you know, working on these problems. And there's room for everybody, not just room, need for everybody. Anyway, that's what I've been thinking.
Any final things that you'd like to share, Armando and Carl?
No, I think that was wonderfully said. Absolutely. You know, I agree. And I echo that same sentiment that, you know, it's from the severe to the mundane, you know, computers and software play a huge part, you know, health tracking apps, you know, calendaring, right? You know, you can, I learned a lot at Apple that time is like super complex, right? And how you surface different things in a calendar, it seems benign, but you know, there's a billion people who like, or more actually, that like really care about, you know, what time Ramadan starts and what time it, you know, and so all of those types of things are really important. And yeah, like you said, making sure that you have diverse people, opinions, and people like working on the solutions. That's how you unlock the new fixes and you know, new approaches to the problems that ail us today.
Strive for a world that, you know, cares about inclusion.
Thank you. Such a enriching and thought-provoking time. I appreciate the time this evening and look forward to more opportunities just extending this conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Michelle. You're a
Definitely.
great moderator, and thank you for providing this opportunity for us.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Armando and Steve. I'll hopefully keep in touch and follow up with some of this stuff. And thanks for those who are attending. We do have another panel, a number of panels that are set for tomorrow. So feel free to join that. We have a authorization one for teachers and one that's going to help inform parents and encourage families and find ways to be able to encourage their emerging coder of how they can take those next steps and build that curiosity. All right. Thank you very much, guys.
All right. Have
Bye.
a good night.
Good
Take
evening.
care.